Hey everybody, it's me, John Ward, and I am back with another Reviews After Midnight. And we are going to be looking at another World War II zombie type movie. Um, if you want, over on my YouTube channel, just John Ward at Dark Park Films, I have a video up that I did for Easter called Easter Zombie Resurrection Marathon, or it could be Easter. No, I think that's it. I think that's how I did it. There might be a word or two there mixed up, but and I looked at a whole bunch of zombie films, and the idea was Easter, the resurrection, zombies, resurrection, and that whole type of thing. A lot of them were Uwe Boll produced films, and so what I did was I looked at these, and so the first one that I looked at was Anger of the Dead, and I did reviews for all these, like brief reviews. So Anger of the Dead was the first one. Then I looked at O Zombie. Then I looked at Eaters of the Dead. Then Zombie Massacre. Then Zombie Massacre 2, Reich of the Dead. And that was a fun day. That was a really fun day. I did not get tired of watching zombie movies at all. And I noticed inside of one of these was, or is, this right here. And it's a Countdown to Doomsday. Get them now, or get them on DVD now before it's too late. And it's countdowntodoomsday.com. And it's Iron Sky, Eaters, Juan of the Dead, O Zombie, and War of the Dead. And I said, you know what? I'm going to buy all of these. I'm going to get all of these countdown movies. And so that's what I did. I ended up ordering them all. So I now have Juan of the Dead, which I have not seen. I ordered Iron Sky, which I did watch. And I figured, you know what? But not on that day. That was on a separate day. I had a double feature, and I purchased its sequel, Iron Sky: The Coming Race. So I got all the ones that I wanted to get. And this video kind of follows that video that I made for the zombie resurrection video on my page, but it also kind of follows up the last video that I did for Reviews After Midnight here on Indie Film Cafe. The last video that I did was for Trench 11, and Trench 11 is awesome. It is really good. It's once again Nazis, it's World War II, it's an underground bunker with really horrible experiments going on. People have these kind of like worm things, like there they are, worm things kind of coming out of their eyes and stuff, and they're more like rage zombies. They're not really like zombies, but it's this thing, this disease that they create, this kind of mutation that takes over the bodies. And the idea is, like uber soldiers and stuff like that. So, which then brings us to the film that I just got done watching, which is War of the Dead. And it's funny because these are kind of the same thing as like Trench 11. It's World War II, underground bunker, Nazis performing horrible experiments. They want to create the uber soldier, so they're injecting soldiers with this like blood, and after death it brings them back to life. And these are more like, kind of like in Trench 11, they're more like rage zombies. They're not and they hop all over the place. Like they're leaping out of trees, they're hopping off of rocks, they're crashing through roofs, it's or roofs. They run, they fight, they have punching matches, they use weapons. These are not traditional zombies. They're actually more crazy than like the 28 Days Later zombies. But I do have my list here. So out of these movies, go check these things out. They're a bunch of fun, and I did enjoy this. I did have a couple issues with it historically, pretty much. So let me show you the DVD here. Unfortunately, the only special feature that this has on it is a trailer. That's it. The film is not rated. It runs for 86 minutes. And I didn't, I had to, I got through about 30 minutes of it and I had to stop because they say that the film takes, well, I'll read the back here, then we'll go on because this isn't correct. The back of this is not correct, more or less. The reviews are like slices of The Dirty Dozen with Day of the Dead. That's Fangoria. Horror with a heavy dose of action, adrenaline, and balls, spelled with a Z. That's Ain't It Cool News. And so it's March 1941. Captain Martin Stone leads an American unit on a mission to destroy a secret Nazi underground bunker. Fighting aside an elite platoon, the soldiers find themselves attacked by the same men they killed in an earlier assault. Now the remaining officers must struggle to survive against the war's most terrifying enemy, a flesh-hungry army of the living dead. So basically, my question on this was, why are there American soldiers trying to find a German bunker in 1941? We didn't enter the war until 1941 because of Pearl Harbor. So, and I was really kind of confused because the soldiers that are in this, so the American soldiers that are in this have helmets, and it's the Finnish army, and they have like no helmets, and the overcoats that they're wearing for both sides are a little different, so that's how you can kind of tell them apart. Both of them are fighting Russians, and they need to get to this bunker where all the Nazi experiments are happening. Excuse me, but they're not done on Germans. They're done on Russians, like Russian soldiers. And there may be a few at the end when they're fighting actually in the bunker. There's probably a few like German soldiers in there, but it's mostly Russian soldiers. And I was very confused because of what the back says. So it's basically and I stopped the movie 30 minutes in and I went to YouTube. Well, I looked up the movie first and found out that this takes place technically during the Continuation War, which took place right after the Winter War. So basically from like 39 to like 1939 to like 1940, there was the Winter War, which is where Finland was fighting the Russians. And then to get their land back, they had this war that was called the Continuous War. And Germany wanted Finland and Russia wanted Finland. There was also Sweden was thrown in there. And this was the big fight. And Finland basically had to kind of side with Germany because Russia wanted their uh, wanted their country. So I only watched about 5 or 10 minutes of a documentary that I found. It's much more interesting, I would believe, to just sit down and watch like a good History Channel documentary or something on that war, that I had no idea even happened. So what's so having Americans in this doesn't make any sense. There is a comment near the end of the movie about, and this is from a Russian soldier that kind of goes over to the other side. And then he starts fighting like the Russian dead and everything. That he says, like, to one of the last Americans, one of the soldiers, is, "Why are you here? This isn't even your war." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I know." So it's like, okay, so I guess the Americans are not in World War II yet. Because you have to remember, before 1941, America wanted to stay out of the war, and they were actually trying to be friends with Hitler. And it wasn't until Pearl Harbor happened that we then got into the war. And of course, that's, Germany, Italy, Japan. And so that's what brought us in. We pretty much figured it at that point, before Pearl Harbor, that Hitler was probably going to win. So we were, kind of cozying up to him. Hence why Charlie Chaplin had to delay making The Great Dictator, because they Americans, or our government, didn't want to insult Hitler. And so historically, this is pretty wrong, but it was very entertaining. And once I kind of figured out what was going on, and I did a little bit of research, and it's like, oh, okay. I put it back on. I started from the beginning, and I did enjoy it. So I got my list. So we're going to go through the list, and I'm also going to read some stuff off of like Wikipedia and IMDb. So actually, I'm going to do that first, because maybe we won't need the list, depending. So this was originally called Stone's War, which is the main American soldier is named Stone. It's an awful name. It's I don't know what it gives. No, there's nothing that says that it's a zombie movie or a rage zombie movie. So I thought that was really weird. The director of this did another movie, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name. Marco is his first name, but I'm not going to be able to pronounce his second name or last name. He did do a movie that I want to see called Deadly Descent, The Abominable Snowman. So I'm kind of psyched for that. And he's also worked for The Asylum. He was supposed to work on Mega Shark versus oh god, I'm blanking. Like Clonus. But it says here that he abandoned the shoot and went on to make a movie called It Came from the Desert. He's currently producing an upcoming horror comedy called The Creep, starring Christopher Lambert. So, but I do want to see this Abominable Snowman one. I don't think I need IMDb. I think I got everything right here. Yeah, this is where everything is. So, according to Wikipedia, production took over 8 years with many changes in both cast and crew. It was originally titled Stone's War, starring James Van Der Beek. Production occurred in Lithuania at the cost of, and this is US dollars, 1.8 million, making it the most expensive film ever made in Lithuania. It did premiere at the Toronto After Dark Film Festival, October 22nd, 2011. So these are the historical errors. Well, actually, here's a review first. It mostly got negative reviews. Variety called it one-dimensional. And Fangoria praised the film highly, calling it an extremely impressive debut, giving it a final rating of 3 out of 4. So, historical errors. The initial scene is set in 1939, presumably during the Russian-Finnish War. What Nazi scientists are doing helping the Finnish is not explained. The bulk of the film is set in 1941, presumably between the start of the Continuation War and Pearl Harbor. How neutral U.S. troops in U.S. uniforms can be serving with the Finns is never explained. The classic U.S. M1 steel helmets are too late for 1941. The German captain wears a Vietnam War era enlisted uniform jacket under his trench coat. The same captain also wears odd captain rank bars on a patch on his arm, when officer rank is meant to be worn on the collar and shoulders. Which is weird because you never really know after all the Finnish die, all the Americans die. There's one Finnish left, and then there's one American left, and they kind of go back and forth between who's in charge. At first, it's the Finnish guy, then it's the American guy. So it's kind of weird that they just don't stick with one guy. It says the nature of the border in this area where the film is set, though not mentioned, is never adequately explained. The German experimental bunker is described as a Soviet bunker, but is full of Nazis, undead, and otherwise. And yeah, they do talk about that it's a Soviet bunker, but yeah, there's a bunch of Nazis in there. There's a huge Nazi flag, all of that stuff. It is said to be behind enemy lines, but things are so confused by this stage that it is unclear which enemy is meant. Because when I was watching the documentary, the Finland and Russia share a border together. So they talk about how they're just over enemy lines. I think they say something like 30 kilometers or 50 kilometers, something like that, over enemy lines, because at the end they need to have the bunker bombed by aircraft. Let's see. The German experimental bunker is described as already went over that. Otherwise dead. Okay, behind enemy lines. But things are so confused by the stage. It's okay. The airstrike at the end is presumably meant to be Finnish. It is hard to imagine that it is American, and a Soviet radio communication after it is ordered makes it clear it is not Soviet. Yet the aircraft resemble Soviet, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, I-16 fighters. They are also clearly not bombers capable of destroying a vast bunker complex. The airplanes are all CGI, the bombs are CGI, and all that type of stuff. So I don't know what's going on with these guys. Like maybe they didn't do their research, or they just figured that if you just wear some sort of army coat that nobody's going to notice. But obviously people did notice. It's so until I looked up some stuff on here, I mean, I wouldn't know that type of stuff, but things are very confusing, especially with like the radio transmission at the end. It's the Finnish guy and the good Russian reach the communications area, and the Finnish in English calls for the strike. The response is in English. So I thought maybe that they were talking to Americans. And then we see the planes coming over later that that bomb everything. I assumed that they were American, but according to what I'm reading here, they might be Finnish, but they very much resemble Russian planes. So it's really kind of confusing of this whole of how this all worked out. So, but I did enjoy the film. I mean, it's I thought it was well directed. I thought it was well acted. Um, Everybody speaks English, which I guess is fine. In Trench 11, they speak English and German, which I really liked. The I definitely give like 5 stars to the sets and the scenery and the location. It's kind of takes place in these little like villages that are all destroyed, or like little towns that are all destroyed. And then once they hit the bunker, they go underground, and it's really kind of cool. Even these like little villages and stuff that are all kind of destroyed are neat because they're by like graveyards and stuff. But the only thing that I truly did not like about this is, well, 2 things, I guess. The first one being, one, you have to know the history. There is like a intro at the beginning of the film, and that tells you on this date this happened, on this date this happened. But and there is just a little thing down at the bottom that says this is kind of true. And which is true. There was the war, and these guys did fight, but there weren't zombies and all that type of stuff. But it's almost like you have to do research before you watch this to kind of understand what's going on. That I have a little bit of a problem with. And but my other problem really is the editing. It is, my God, it's like it's MTV editing. It's like it's just cut. Like there's no it's like there's not even like 5 seconds in between some shots. It moves so quickly with the editing that I got confused of who people are, because no one is really distinct in this, unless you remember that the American soldiers wear helmets and the Finnish army wears no helmets. And then the Russian army has helmets and the overcoats, but they're like a tan type of color. So you kind of really have to pay attention to that type of thing. And the edit, I mean, it's like a maniac edited this. I mean, it's just, the editing is too crazy. I wish that they would have just kind of let it flow better, instead of just like, edit. It's nice to have open shots and let things kind of go for a little bit, give a rest. I remember Resident Evil, the final chapter was that way. I've gotten used to that film with its editing. I now like it, but I didn't like it for a long time because the editing is so frantic and so chaotic that it was hard to see anything, and kind of figure out what's going on. This is the same way. I actually had to rewind it a couple times to see what had happened. So let's look at the list here. So, film title, War of the Dead, otherwise known as Sam's War for some reason. Wait a minute, I think I'm correct on Sam's War. Stone's War. There we go. Stone's War. You can also include a star rating here. So, 1 to 5, I give, even though things aren't historically correct with the costumes and all that type of stuff and where they're at, I still give this a 5 as far as like I said, the costumes, the locations, the sets, the bunker, all that type of stuff. This could also have more blood in it. But I'm giving it a 5 for that. But and I'm giving the editing like a 1.5. So I'm going to give this film, I'm going to give it 3 stars. I'm going to give it 3 zombies out of 5 zombies. So there you go. What can you expect from this film? Just to be entertained. It's a zombie movie, World War II zombie movie. So I'm hoping just to be entertained, but it made me stop and do some research, which is fine because now I know about an event that I never knew about. So that, I guess that's okay. What type of film is it? It's a horror movie. It's action, horror, zombie movie. Does it have a message? No, not at all. It's just, Americans good, Finnish people good, Nazis bad, Russians are bad, except for one guy. What happens in the film? Does the plot make sense? Is it easy to follow? Is it believable? Yeah, I mean, I pretty much went over what it's about. So it's just this platoon, more or less, from two different countries, has to get from A to B, which is the bunker, the German Russian bunker. And in between, they find these kind of like villages and little towns, and they get attacked by zombies and they get attacked by Russians. At one point, they do meet a woman in it. She's maybe in the movie for about 5 minutes, maybe a little more than that. This is an all male cast. Everybody in it is male. And I have a feeling that the only reason why a woman was put into this was to have a woman's name in it. Because she really doesn't do anything in the film. Does the plot make sense? I guess. I mean, kind of the less that you explain about these things, the better. So if the Nazis are taking a Russian guy and throwing him down on like a big metal like operating table, and they set him up with an IV and they inject this blood, and then he starts to go like rabid, crazy. You don't really have to explain it. So I think excuse me, I think less explanation for certain things is better. Was it easy to follow? I'm going to say no, because I had to do that research. So it's yeah. Characters, who are the main characters and what are they like? So like I said, Finnish, American, except for our two main guys, the one main Finnish guy and the one American guy, the other people are pretty interchangeable. They're pretty disposable. They did have one. Oh, this is something that also bothered me. There's a father-son team out there. I don't know why they had to be father and son, but the dad dies during a shootout, and the son then takes a 16 millimeter camera and starts filming. And I'd brought this up on a couple other kind of like found footage stuff. So 16 millimeter camera is film. There's really only a few minutes of film for a 16 millimeter camera. They come in these cases, and at no point, as while the camera was being used, did they ever have to change, film. And changing film in that situation would be a huge pain in the ass. And at only one point did we see from the point of view of the 16 millimeter camera, which we saw in black and white. I'm guessing the reason why this was put in there is because when I was looking on YouTube, there was a fair amount of footage. Some was black and white, some was colorized, of the Finnish army during like the Continuation War, during the Winter War. And so they were definitely filming a lot during that time. So maybe that's why this was added in, was to show that, they were filming. But at no point did they stop to change, film, which you need a black bag for, or a very dark room with no light coming in. Because you got to pop the camera, you have to take the film, and you're most likely not seeing what you're doing, which is why I got tested in college for this when we were shooting in 16 millimeter, is you put your hands inside a black bag and you pop the camera open, and you got to take the film and you put it back in its plastic container, and then you open up excuse me, then you open up another one, put it in. You then got to take the film and run it through all of its little gadgets, put the top on, make sure it's secured so no light gets in it. And a lot of time you put like black tape around it to make sure that nothing leaks in. At no point was that done. And that always bothers me in movies because filmmakers should know that. It's kind of like these days with a found footage film where somebody is using their phone or a camera and it never has to recharge. That always bugs me. So that was kind of annoying. So it also says, who are the actors? I have no idea who these people are. So, and it says, are they good in their parts? They're fine actors. The problem is that you can't really tell everybody apart. There's nothing really distinct about them until you get to the end, and then there's only 3 guys left. So Finnish, American, and Russian. There is another Finnish guy who was the original captain of the group, and he gets bitten by this zombie, which takes forever for him to change. They think he's dead, and he later comes back as kind of like an uber Finnish zombie and has a big fight with one of the guys. So that was kind of cool. It was kind of Resident Evil-ish. What is the camera work like? Camera work was fine. It was just the editing. Everything was well lit. The sound was good. The acting was fine, and everything was good. If there were special effects, what were they like? Combination of practical and digital. But this film it's unrated. It's not rated, but there is very little blood in it for a war movie and a zombie movie. Are there beautiful scenes? There's stuff that looks like it was probably shot on a drone that's above these trees. That looks pretty cool because the trees are all kind of spaced out and kind of barren looking. So that was kind of a cool shot. Are there moments when the camera is used in an interesting way? That was one of them. And there's some interesting shots in this. I would have preferred, like I said, for there to be wider shots instead of medium shots and a lot of close-ups. But otherwise, it looked good. Did you enjoy the film? Yes, for all the reasons that I just mentioned, except for the 2 or 3 things that kind of bugged me, but I can get past that. Were there good and bad points? Yeah, I mentioned them, so we can just go past that. What scene did you particularly enjoy or remember? I like the fight at the end with like the Finnish kind of like Uber soldier, because like I said, it reminded me of Resident Evil. I liked the stuff that takes place in the bunker once they find the labs. I thought that was kind of cool. At the very beginning, a Finnish soldier, because he doesn't have a helmet, they go into a house where this old guy is working, and he might be Russian or German. I'm not really sure, but he has a whole bunch of gizmos on his table. And one of them, and he has several of these things that kind of look like an alarm clock in a way, like an old dial alarm or like a timer. And it ends up being a key. And this soldier steals one, which then they use later. So it comes back. And there's a dog there that doesn't like the soldier. And the dog, I guess, sees that the soldier stole something. So it bites his hand. And but the old guy that's in the house, who's kind of like the scientist or inventor, doesn't know why the dog bit him. And I like that scene because I like that the dog is aware of who this person is and that he stole something. So I thought that was kind of cool. What scene did you particularly not enjoy? Why was it bad? I can't really think of any. I don't think that there's any scenes that I didn't like. It's just the editing. That's the thing that bugged me the most, the editing. Would you recommend this film, and to what sort of people and why? I would recommend it. I would say, if it's on Tubi or a platform that you can get it for free. There's really no swearing. There's no nudity or anything, so it might even be on YouTube. But if it's on Tubi, I would check it out. Sure, if you want like a World War II zombie flick, why not? It's pretty short. It's it's only like 85 minutes. So and it moved at a good pace. I wasn't bored while watching it. So I would recommend it. Are there other films you could compare it to? Well, I did Trench 11 and maybe even Iron Sky because that's Nazis, but there's no Nazis that are on the moon, dark side of the moon. But just any zombie movie, any World War II movie that deals with zombies or anything like that. So so there you go. That's pretty much my review of stuff. So so we got War of the Dead. So check it out. It's not bad. It's not great. It's got its flaws and everything, but I do recommend it. I highly recommend if you could find this on Tubi. I found this at Dollar Tree, and it's got like a slip jacket and everything. I highly recommend Trench 11. So, and then there's of course the films that I showed earlier, like Iron Sky 2, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I've not seen Juan of the Dead, but I will check it out. I enjoyed Zombie Massacre, so that's a good one to watch. Zombie Massacre 2, Reich of the Dead, I was very disappointed in. Once again, 5 for wardrobe, sets, all that type of stuff. 5. But the story, oh my God, it's so slow. And it's not, and was it over 90 minutes? It's 84 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours. Maybe I need to watch it again. It was the last one I watched, which I think was probably like around 11 o'clock at night. So maybe I need to watch it again, but it's more like a drama with zombies in it. So, excuse me, I didn't bring my water. Eaters of the Dead, I recommend. And these are all made by the same people. So, and then Zombie, Bin Laden Zombie. I thought that was fun. And then this is pretty much also made by the same people who did like Zombie Massacre and Eaters of Anger of the Dead. This is another one that I found at Dollar Tree. And for my zombie day on Easter, I'd never seen it, so I said, "Oh, what the hell? I might as well watch it." And I didn't know that it was produced by Uwe Boll, and it's got like both of the directors from those films. So I'm like, "Oh, awesome!" So I decided to have a whole day of their films. So. All right, that's it. So I thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching these. And I guess, yeah, if you want, let me know what zombie films you like down at the in the comments, and we can have a chat. So, all right, thank you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.